I just left the courtroom for the bond hearing for my son.
Chicago artist Lil Durk recently got word about when he's scheduled to get out, and his response made it clear where his head's at. He put it out there that protective custody ain't even on his radar. Dude's confident he'll be touching down back home without needing that type of arrangement. The message he sent was pretty straightforward about his situation and how he's planning to handle things once that release date rolls around. Instead of taking the safer route that some might consider in his position, he's letting folks know he's built different and plans to return to regular life once he's free. His reaction shows he's not worried about what comes next.
The PC. Hey. Hey, I respect your mom forever. The PC.
His attorney Drew Finling put together documents pushing for Durk to be moved to home confinement instead of staying locked up, which got people talking. DJ Vlad ended up weighing in on the whole situation, basically telling people to remember what he said because he thinks Durk's got legitimate odds of walking away from this whole thing. The way things are moving in court is looking interesting to say the least. What's really catching attention is how the federal prosecutors seem to be scrambling when they step into that courtroom. Word is, they're having trouble getting their story straight about what exactly they're trying to pin on him. It's like they came in with one plan, but now they're switching things up, which has people wondering if their case is as solid as they initially made it seem. When the government starts second-guessing their own charges, that usually means something ain't adding up the way they thought it would.
Of the matter is, his trial team has won a number of points in this case. Some of the evidence that they wanted to use has actually been withdrawn so that the judge didn't have to exclude it. When they bought this case, they said the conspiracy started in August 2022. That's when Durk arranged to get these rentals, these flights. That's when he made arrangements for the bounty. Then they switched that and they said, actually, the conspiracy started back when Von November 2020. And here's the big one. When they charged Durk, they said in the indictment about the bounty that at the direction of defendant Durk Banks, defendant Wilson, that's OTF Didi, would pay the bounty or monetary reward to the
Here's where things take a turn that actually works in Durk's favor, though. The prosecution just threw in what they're calling a backup charge, and anybody who knows how the legal system operates can tell you what that really means. When you see the government tacking on extra charges this late in the game, it's basically their safety net. Something they do when the main case isn't looking too promising. This move is what lawyers call throwing up a Hail Mary, which is pretty much the legal equivalent of a desperation play. It's what happens when prosecutors walk into a courtroom knowing their primary accusations might not stick, so they scramble to find something else that could land. The fact that they're even going this route says a lot about where they stand. If your case was bulletproof from the jump, you wouldn't need to be adding fallback options right before trial. It's like admitting your original strategy has holes in it, and now you're hoping something smaller might work instead. For Durk, this actually signals weakness on their end, rather than strength.
Also added a fallback charge. So when they bought the case, the original indictment, there was no stalking charge. In the second superseding indictment against Durk, they added a stalking charge. And the stalking charge is important because it doesn't require any contract. No quid pro quo, no bounty, no payment theory. You can add that charge and simply prove that, hey, he was telling people to go do this. He didn't necessarily pay them to go do but he was telling them to go follow that guy. He was telling them to go stalk that guy. And a jury can look at it and say, a lot like in the Diddy case, that, hey, not exactly sure here. Very, very, very suspicious individual over here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit him with the lesser charge. And so, when the government puts in that fallback charge later in the case, that tells you that they're not 100% sure.
But then, something strange went down once everyone left the courthouse. Even with all this potentially good news coming out about his case looking better, the rap game stayed completely silent on Durk. Not a single artist from the industry stepped up to show any type of support publicly, which didn't go unnoticed. That silence led to someone from Durk's camp hopping on his Instagram story to drop a message that basically said, you only find out who really rocks with you when times get tough and everything goes dark. It was clearly aimed at all those people who went ghost once the handcuffs came out. The post hit different because it wasn't just venting. It was calling out a pattern everybody could see happening in real time. DJ Academics broke down what was really going on behind the scenes too. He pointed out how the same rappers who used to be around Durk completely switched up the moment he caught his case. Instead of staying neutral or keeping quiet, a bunch of them actually pivoted and started trying to build bridges with NBA YoungBoy, clearly looking to score some attention and relevance off the situation. It's that typical industry move where loyalty goes out the window as soon as someone's situation gets complicated, and people start calculating what's better for their own brand instead.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of the went on tour with, did songs with, called you they brother, they twin. I wouldn't be surprised if these rappers try to fuck India. These are down low and dirty. And I think this is what I think Durk right now is thinking that, man, I thought I was just with a whole bunch of real. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And I feel bad for Durk. When King Slime got locked up, there was a whole parade. Free him! Free him! Free him! Oh, nah. Everybody would post details of the case. How is this humane? How could they do this? Yo, free not Smurf. No, free Slime. Durk got locked up. They might give that half a bar. Free Smirk. They moved him. I'll give credit. I have heard some of these guys have sent lawyers. Good for that, but Smirk is in there, man, realizing the world don't stop spinning.
All that scrambling from the prosecution ended up pushing Durk's trial date back even further. And here's why that actually matters for him. The delay creates an opening for that house arrest arrangement to potentially come through, which changes the whole timeline of how this could play out. The official word came out that the Chicago rapper's murder for hire trial got pushed all the way to Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, after a hearing went down. But the real game changer here is what 3 of his co-defendants decided to do. They went ahead and filed paperwork asking the court to separate their trials from Durk's, which might not sound like much on the surface, but it's actually huge for him. Here's what that really means in practical terms. When you're on trial and sitting next to multiple co-defendants who have documented gang ties and criminal histories, the prosecution usually tries to paint you with the same brush. They'll present all that evidence about your co-defendants' activities and let the jury connect the dots, even if you weren't directly involved in what those other people were doing. It's a tactic to make you look guilty by association, showing the jury who you spend time with and letting them assume you must be involved in the same stuff. But now that these 3 want their own separate trials, the prosecutors lose that advantage. They can't put Durk in front of a jury alongside known gang members and use that association to damage his credibility anymore. The jury won't see him sitting at a table with people who have extensive criminal records, which means the government has to actually prove their case against him specifically rather than relying on guilt by proximity.
And that's what Diddy did. He's basically saying all this evidence y'all got against Durk got nothing to do with me. Why you got me charged with Durk? And that doesn't mean he's going against Durk. That just means he wants his case severed. And I'm telling you, if it's severed, it helps Durk. Because one of the main connective tissue to this conspiracy is saying that Durk told Diddy to hire. Diddy's saying, I ain't get told to hire nobody. And I ain't hiring nobody. What are you talking about? Why would I hire someone? That's his thing.
Some people looking into the case aren't buying that this separation move was just a coincidence, though. There's speculation floating around that Durk might have actually compensated these co-defendants to file those motions and break away from his trial. When something benefits you that perfectly in a legal situation, investigators start asking questions about what might have happened behind closed doors to make it go down that way. The timing of everything definitely raises eyebrows, especially considering what came out right after. DJ Academics dropped some information that completely shifted the conversation. According to what he revealed, one of the people allegedly connected to Durk's situation ended up running his mouth to someone he thought was just another inmate sharing a cell with him. Problem is, that cellmate wasn't what he seemed. Dude was actually working as an informant for the authorities the whole time. During their conversations, this associate allegedly admitted that Durk had financially backed a retaliation mission tied to his brother D-Thang's death. For those who don't know, D-Thang was Durk's brother who was killed, and the streets have always said there would be consequences for that. Now there's someone on record claiming Durk funded the response to that loss. If that confession is legitimate and can be verified in court, it completely changes the landscape of what the prosecution can prove. The whole situation shows how one conversation with the wrong person can unravel everything. especially when you don't realize the walls literally have ears.
He gets locked up in a cell, and they give him a cellmate. He tells his cellmate who he murdered, how he murdered him, the homie he did the murder with, and who was supposed to pay him for the murder. Thank you. Come again. Perfect. Got him. So he confessed, essentially. He's talking to a cellmate. Listen to how he's talking to his cellmate, chat. Yeah, I had the standard, folk, with a 60 round in that on mic. I let 3 shots out when he first came out. Marley said, yo, wait till he get to the car. I say, yo, tweaking, boy. By the time he get to the car, that's enough time for him to get his pipe. Yo, so now the cellmate, who's a confidential source, is saying, tell me more.
That confession has investigators thinking the feds purposely pushed back the murder for hire trial date because they might be planning to slap Durk with an additional murder charge. The delay would give them time to build that case properly and add it to what they're already trying to hit him with. It's a strategic move if that's really what they're doing. Buy yourself more time while keeping him locked up. But Drew Findling wasn't about to let any of that stop him from pushing forward with his game plan. Despite all the noise about potential new charges and jailhouse confessions, he went ahead and filed that house arrest motion. Anyway, when the court hearing wrapped up, his legal team submitted all the paperwork requesting that Durk be released to home confinement instead of sitting in a cell waiting for trial. The proposal they put together is pretty detailed too. Durk's willing to personally fund the entire salary of a corrections officer who would basically move into his residence full-time. We're not talking about check-ins or ankle monitors with the occasional visit. This would be a dedicated officer whose entire job is watching Durk around the clock. Every movement, every phone call, every person who comes through that door would be documented. It's essentially voluntary surveillance just to get out of jail while waiting for trial, which shows how serious he is about getting released. But the prosecution wasn't about to let Durk's side walk out of that courtroom feeling too good about things. Right before the judge closed out the session, they secured a major victory of their own. The court ruled that prosecutors can bring in whatever evidence they want to build their case, and that includes some heavy material. They got approval to show the jury footage related to King Von's death, which is a big deal because it establishes why Durk would have wanted retaliation in the first place. The whole argument is about motive, proving that Durk lost his closest friend and had reason to want payback for it. By allowing that footage in, the judge basically handed them a powerful tool to demonstrate what was driving everything that allegedly happened afterward.
He's talking to a cellmate. Listen to how he's talking to his cellmate, chat. Yeah, I had the standard, folk, with a 60 round in that on mic. I let 3 shots out when he first came out. Marley said, yo, wait till he get to the car. I say, yo, tweaking, boy. By the time he get to the car, that's enough time for him to get his pipe. Yo, so now the cellmate, who's a confidential source, is saying, tell me more.
The court's decision to allow all that evidence in isn't random. They've got specific reasoning behind it, and it breaks down into a couple key points. First off, there's what happened immediately after King Von got killed. Social media went crazy that night, but not in the way you'd expect when someone dies. Instead of keeping quiet or showing any type of respect, a whole bunch of Von's enemies jumped online to celebrate. We're talking about posts, videos, comments. People were openly clowning his death and acting like it was a victory for their side. That type of disrespect doesn't just fade away, especially in that world where reputation and loyalty mean everything. The prosecution's argument is that all that online celebration created the perfect storm for Durk to feel like he had to respond. They're saying those posts and that public disrespect is what lit the fuse. That watching his best friend get mocked and disrespected after being killed would push someone to want payback. It's about establishing that emotional trigger, showing the jury that Durk didn't just lose a friend, he watched people celebrate that loss publicly. The feds want the jury to understand that context because it helps explain why someone in his position would allegedly go as far as they're claiming he did. That's why the judge is letting them present all that social media activity and the circumstances around Von's death. It builds the narrative about what would drive someone to retaliate. But there's a second major reason the court approved showing all that King Von footage. And this one cuts even deeper. The judge made a ruling that certain lyrics from Durk's music can actually be presented as evidence against him in trial. That's a huge deal because it opens the door for prosecutors to argue that he wasn't just making art, he was confessing to what really went down. The specific bars they're planning to use hit pretty direct. Durk raps about people flooding his comments telling him to slide for Von, acknowledging that he knows they're just trying to get under his skin. But then the next line is what really matters to the prosecution. He says he already got it back in blood, and people just don't know about it yet. He follows that up by saying that's exactly how things are supposed to go down. On the surface, you could argue it's just tough talk for a song, but in a courtroom, those words take on a completely different meaning. What makes this even more damaging is how the prosecution plans to use it. They're not just playing the song and calling it a day. They're connecting those exact lyrics to an interview Durk did with DJ Academics, where he actually addressed all the slide for Von comments himself. During that conversation, he talked about how people were constantly in his mentions telling him to get revenge, which lines up perfectly with what he said in his music. The feds are basically arguing that he told everyone what happened through his lyrics, then confirmed the context of those lyrics by discussing the same situation in an interview. It creates this loop where his own words from multiple sources are being used to build a timeline and confession. That's why allowing those lyrics in is such a win for the prosecution. It's not just evidence, it's him potentially telling on himself in his own voice.
I'm not triggered by the slide for Von comments. I don't know if people still say it. They used to say it, but you also mentioned a song. They'd be like, they be saying slide for Von. I think they trolling me. Yo, by the way, that song is fire. I ain't gonna lie.
For some reason, I just don't see the comments no more. Some odd reason. I don't know. Might be the water.
That interview clip is going to give prosecutors serious ammunition in the courtroom because it establishes beyond any doubt that Durk was fully aware of all those slide for Von comments flooding his social media. He acknowledged it himself on camera, which makes it impossible for the defense to claim he didn't know what people were saying or that he wasn't paying attention to it. Once you've got that baseline established, everything else starts connecting together. The fact that he then went into the studio and released official music addressing that exact same situation just reinforces the prosecution's theory. They're building this narrative where he's documenting his mindset and actions through his art. The next set of bars they're planning to present gets even more specific about what allegedly went down. In the lyrics, Durk talks about people telling him not to address anything related to Von, but he responds by saying, "Forget that, you're bugging out." He mentions that enemies were posting their exact whereabouts online, basically dropping pins on where they could be found. Then he says he made sure things got handled. The song continues with him saying to skip all the social media threats about sliding. That stuff just alerts the feds and ruins the element of surprise. The way prosecutors are interpreting all this is pretty straightforward in their eyes. They're arguing these lyrics confirm that Durk intentionally stayed quiet on social media about King Von's death, specifically because he was planning real action instead of just talking online. The bars about locations being dropped and getting things done supposedly reference tracking down targets and executing the plan. And that line about not tweeting threats because it brings federal attention, they see that as him explaining his strategy for staying under the radar while coordinating what happened next. Then there's the reference to actually going through with it, grabbing weapons and making sure the mission got completed. The prosecution will likely tie all of this to actual events that made headlines and were covered by local news outlets. They're essentially saying he laid out the entire sequence of events in his music, saw the disrespect, got the locations, armed up, and followed through. Whether that's artistic expression or confession is what the jury's going to have to decide. But the fact that it's even allowed in court is a major problem for the defense.
The search is on for 3 people who police say at a Savannah rapper, a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles and cameras captured the aftermath.
This man, a passenger in that car, frantic at the side.
There's this common misconception floating around that your lyrics can't be used against you in a legal setting, but that's not actually true. The reality is, they absolutely can be admitted as evidence. It just doesn't happen often enough for most people to realize it's possible. That's what makes situations like this so serious. When prosecutors do successfully get lyrics admitted into trial, it usually means they've built a compelling enough argument that the judge sees them as more than just artistic expression. And once that door opens, it becomes a significant obstacle for the defense to overcome. Durk's legal team wasn't about to let all this slide without pushing back, though. They stood up in that courtroom and argued that the whole proceeding is turning into a one-sided affair. Their point was pretty clear. The judge keeps greenlighting everything the prosecution wants to bring in, allowing them to stack evidence and build their narrative however they see fit. Meanwhile, their client isn't even being treated with basic fairness while he sits in custody waiting for this trial to happen. That's when they started exposing what's really been going on behind bars, and the conditions are honestly pretty shocking. Drew Findling's team put together official paperwork requesting a hearing specifically to address how Durk's being detained. According to the documents they filed, he's been stuck in what's called a special housing unit since late August 2025, and he was thrown in there without any proper process or hearing to justify it. The details of his confinement paint a rough picture. We're talking about a cell so cramped that there's barely enough space for the basics. Just room for a single bed, a toilet, and a sink. That's his entire world for 23 hours every single day. He gets 1 hour outside that cell, and the rest of the time, he's locked in that tiny space with nothing to do and nowhere to go. It's essentially solitary confinement under a different name. But it gets worse when you look at what he's cut off from. Most inmates have access to commissary, where they can buy snacks, hygiene products, and other items to make their time more bearable. Durk doesn't have that privilege at all. Phone calls? He's limited to 1 per month, which is wild when you consider most inmates can call their families multiple times a week. There's no in-person visits with friends or family either. Nobody can come see him face to face, which cuts him off from the outside world almost completely. The craziest part is what landed him in this situation to begin with. According to the filing, the whole reason they moved him to this special housing unit was because he had an Apple Watch in his possession. That's it. Whether someone smuggled it in or he had it from intake doesn't even matter at this point. The punishment seems way out of proportion to the violation. For having a watch, he's been living in near isolation for months on end. Even other inmates noticed something was off. People who were in the same cell block as Durk before he disappeared started reaching out to his people on the outside because they genuinely had no clue where he went. One day he's there, the next day he's just gone with no explanation. Those calls were basically inmates saying the way they're handling his situation doesn't add up and feels deliberately harsh. When other people locked up are looking at your treatment and calling it unfair, that tells you something about how extreme it's gotten.
They got Lil Durk in a hole for basically some BS, and right now we're gonna show the paperwork. They saying that he was caught with a cell phone, and basically that's not true. They trying to keep him in a hole, do a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing or whatever, but they're trying to make a point because they saying that me and him is privileged and we got so many things going on, and it's a lot of BS.
With everything Durk's been going through in that special housing unit, DJ Academics came out and broke down what he thinks the long-term impact is going to be. His take was pretty sobering. He basically said that whenever Durk finally does walk out of custody, whether that's through beating the case or finishing a sentence, the person who comes home isn't going to be the same artist fans fell in love with. Academics was getting at something deeper than just the legal troubles. Spending months or potentially years in those conditions, isolated from everything and everyone, changes people on a fundamental level. That creative energy, that hunger, that connection to what made his music resonate in the first place, all of that gets affected when you're living in a cell for 23 hours a day with limited human contact. The streets already knew this from watching other rappers come home after bids, but Ak was putting it out there explicitly for Durk's situation. The whole vibe and mentality shifts when you go through something like this. You're not making music. You're not in the studio experimenting with sounds. You're not living the experiences that fuel the lyrics. Instead, You're sitting in silence with your thoughts, dealing with legal stress, and watching your career potentially slip away while you can't do anything about it. Even if he beats every charge and walks out tomorrow, the time lost and the psychological toll of being in those conditions doesn't just disappear. That's what academics was really warning people about. The artists they're waiting to come back might not even want to make the same type of music anymore, or worse, might not be able to capture that same essence even if he tries.
The Durk y'all loved when he was free, if he gets back out again, he'll never be that Durk. I'm gonna tell you why. He done learned a lot of lessons. This is me assuming, nothing he's told me. But the things that he did for others. Y'all know when he came on my podcast, right? And he said, man, yo, Gunna's a snitch. I can't Gunna. Man, f that. I don't care. I love Thug. He said that because Thug told him. Yo, what Durk is realizing, Durk is a great soldier, but nobody looked at him like a leader. Durk was willing to move on behalf of the people he's loyal to when they get locked up. When he locked up, they might drop him as a bar in a song, but
right now, all eyes are on that August trial date and whether Drew Finling can pull off getting him released to house arrest before then. The way this case keeps shifting, with prosecutors scrambling and co-defendants separating their trials, there's no telling what the next hearing might bring. One thing's certain though, the game's watching closely, even if they're not showing it publicly.
One of the cooperating.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So
that's co-conspiracy too.
I don't know. You don't need too much more than that. One of is cooperating.
With 2 years already gone sitting behind bars, Lil Durk's situation just got a whole lot worse. The prosecution came through with fresh evidence that's looking like it could bury him for life. They've moved to get King Von's passing footage in front of the jury once things kick off in court, arguing it goes straight to showing Durk had personal reasons to want blood.
Testimony and video surveillance surrounding the death of King Von, and the motion to exclude this evidence was denied, meaning the judge is going to allow witnesses to testify about and allow the video of King Von's to be played at the trial. And this is important because prosecutors wanted to use this evidence to argue that King Von is the reason or motive as to why Durk offered this bounty on Quando Rondo. And so with this ruling, the jury will get to see and hear.
There are two reasons the court is letting that footage in. The first comes down to the reaction from the opposition when King Von died. A lot of his enemies were out there celebrating his passing, and prosecutors are saying that's exactly what pushed Lil Durk over the edge. The argument is that he wanted to make it stop, and the only way he saw to do that was to go handle it himself. The second reason ties directly into the lyrics angle because the judge already gave the green light for certain lines from Durk's music to be brought up during trial, specifically the bars about sliding for Von, knowing the ops are trolling, and getting it back. So prosecutors plan to connect those words to an interview Durk did with DJ Academics, where he actually brought up that same sliding for Von sentiment on his own, essentially handing them the link they needed.
I'm triggered by the slide for Von comments. I don't know if people still say it. They used to say it, but you also mention a song. They'd be like, they be saying slide for Von. I think they trolling me. Yo, by the way, that song is fire. I ain't gonna lie.
For some reason, I just don't see the comments no more. For some odd reason. I don't know. Might be the water.
That interview is going to hit Durk harder than most people realize. The prosecution is planning to put it front and center for the jury, using it to show that Durk wasn't just aware of all the chatter about sliding for Von. He addressed it directly. During that sit down, he actually made a point of saying he no longer sees those comments anymore. And the way he framed it pointed straight to the Quando Rondo situation as the reason why. But then he went and made everything worse by putting it in a song. Prosecutors pulled the lyrics straight into the evidence file. Lines about not responding to the Von talk, saying others were tripping, referencing locations being dropped and getting it taken care of. On top of that, there were posts going up saying they were sliding. The way the case is being built, all of that is being stitched together as a clear picture of Durk's state of mind, that instead of letting the King Von commentary go, he made the decision to pick up a weapon and move on it.
The search is on for 3 people who police say at a Savannah rapper, a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles and cameras captured the aftermath.
A lot of people walk around thinking lyrics can never be held against you in a courtroom, but that's not actually true. The judge signed off on both sets of lines being used against Lil Durk, and while it doesn't happen often, When a court does allow it, the damage is serious. So now prosecutors had already laid out that Durk knew about the slide for Von Talk and went ahead and put it in his music anyway. The only piece missing was a money trail, and they found that too. It came out in court that back in 2022, Durk took a photo of himself with $1 million in cash sitting right there on his bathroom counter. Shortly after, prosecutors announced they believe Durk put a $1 million bounty on Quando Rondo that same year. The filings go further, stating that co-defendant Wilson recruited hitmen on behalf of co-defendant Banks, promising them a $1 million payout to fly out to Southern California on August 18, 2022 and handle Quando Rondo. The timing of that bathroom photo lines up almost exactly with when the crime went down, leading investigators to believe the selfie was essentially proof of funds. Durk putting his face next to the cash to show the money was real and ready. But it doesn't stop there. The evidence file also points out that co-conspirators were rewarded in other ways too, getting featured in music videos and being mentioned across rap lyrics in the months that followed. The most pointed example cited was Durk's track Block is Hot, framed as a reward. That detail alone had people online losing it.
Mo, this is my last no jumper. Durk already told me I wasn't supposed to come back up here with that last.
Now look what happened to him.
That man got kids. You talking about look what happened to him.
Definitely not happy about him.
I wouldn't be happy if you go to jail, Adam, because I know you got daughter. Break down.
There's multiple people who are no longer there for their kids as a result of that Durk allegedly called in.
Until they put that on black and white, sir. Stop throwing stuff on a black man who's trying to do something right for the community right now.
The feds have already put out a lot of information about this.
You don't have to put it out. You don't have to put it out. So this is a major platform.
You're not the boss of me. We talk about rap on here. I think it is well within our jurisdiction to talk about the fact
that what type of police is
been alleged to have ordered them.
This
free smirk though.
Free smirk. But also maybe
police. It's a platform. There's some police.
Just sit down for a little and decide. Hey, maybe I'm not anybody else.
We don't have no proof that.
Well,
what came next put Durk in the deepest hole he's been in yet. Bad enough that it got a reaction out of him even from inside. He pushed out a message from behind bars talking about being tired of being used as a symbol for the streets, saying he wants to start pointing things in a better direction. He expressed that something has been weighing on him about stepping up for the younger generation, that kids are paying attention and need something real to look toward, essentially saying he feels called to be someone they can look up to. But investigators aren't reading that at face value. Their take is that this is Durk coming to grips with where his life is headed now, that OTF members have agreed to cooperate against him, with that cooperation likely sealing a life sentence. The message reads less like a change of heart and more like a man who sees the writing on the wall. On top of all that, federal prosecutors revealed inside court that Durk allegedly ordered hits on OTF members who he felt weren't doing enough to avenge King Von's death. They plan to bring a witness to the stand who says Durk gave those orders directly. The evidence file lays it out plainly, stating that Durk had an ongoing beef with OTF member Monaduke, specifically because he believed certain members of the group weren't holding it down the way they should have been after Von born Davon Bennett was killed. And then on top of all of that, Quack 100 jumped in and started revealing what he knew.
Life, by basically saying he's guilty of for hire. And the only thing that, like, yes, some of these things look suspect. Why'd you go there? Why are these people going there? Why'd you send this message? But nothing. There's no message that they got that says where Durk says, y'all that Quando yet? Nothing says that.
No, you missing the point. Okay. They got a witness already cooperating on that. Been had one. We just ain't seen what they said. It's 3 years. One of the cooperating.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's co-conspiracy too.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't need too much more than that. One of the is cooperating. Then in the paperwork, you got the conversation. They say they had it in and out.
The snitch ended up being Vonnie. His court records got updated, showing he's no longer being held in federal custody, which means he's already been let out and stashed away in a safe house somewhere across the country, kept hidden until the trial starts so nobody from OTF can get to him before he takes the stand. But here's where things take a strange turn. Somehow Vonnie managed to get his hands on a phone while in that safe house. He reached out and texted someone who had ties close to OTF, thinking it was safe, but that person turned around and burned him completely, putting everything out in the open. In that text, Vonnie laid out his entire legal game plan. He said he was working on pleading out on a base charge of 32 for murder for hire, with the maximum exposure being 43 points, which translates to life. He ran through the deduction, points off for taking the plea, additional points off for doing it early, and more knocked off for having no prior record, landing him at around 27 points total, which falls somewhere in the 5 to 7 year range. His whole argument was that rolling the dice at trial wasn't worth it when those numbers were sitting on the table. He also mentioned not wanting things to go the way they went for those other guys, and when he said that, he was specifically talking about FBG Duck's situation. More on that shortly, but first, because word got out that Vonnie was the one cooperating, the situation spiraled in a direction nobody saw coming. Vonnie's own father stepped forward and put his son out there, disclosing that Vonnie had a serious hand in what happened to King Von, and that Durk had full knowledge of it. The reason he went against his own flesh and blood, he made it clear he wants no part of being the father of someone who tells.
I'm gonna give you this. It's a back door and I got all the pieces. That's all I'm gonna tell you. As Durk asked Vonnie, is it open? Vonnie told him it's off the hinges.
Wait. Are you talking about the Von? Like King Von?
Listen very carefully. When the payment was made to Little Tim, the next day or the same day, Durk asked Vonnie, was it open? This is what he asked him. Was it open? Those were the exact words. Was it open? He told him it's off the hinges.
Are you saying that Vonnie backdoor King Von? No way. That was right in there.
You heard what I just said. Guess what? You need motive first, right? I got bankers. that'll testify that or will make a contract or make a statement to you and let you know that this is the amount of money he had, this is what he had, this is that another. You need motive first and foremost. I got text messages from the lawyer letting you know that who told on Durk before.
Investigators also dug up additional footage of Vonnie's father going into detail about why Durk allegedly wanted King Von out of the picture. Law enforcement flagged something significant. At the time Von was killed, he and Durk were both wrapped up in the same court case together, one that eventually ended in a private settlement behind closed doors. That detail opened up a whole other angle, because it raises a serious question about whether Durk quietly worked something out with federal authorities after Von's death, and found a way to shift the weight of that case onto Von once he was no longer around to defend himself.
Why would Durk want Von?
Let me give you this. First of all, you didn't sign your rights over. You ain't in no 360 deal. First of all, you can't bring nobody into the business and they surpass you. How you bring me to the table and I pass you up? Don't nobody want their chief spot taken, do they?
That's an interesting
dude was
thing.
a slack. Dude was he was signing the boys. He was Von wasn't no slack.
That's interesting. I did find out that Von didn't have any contractual ties to Durk like that, which was
man, come on, man. He wasn't even signed to him. How's this his friend? He lied on Breakfast Club and said, "Hey, you think your man would be sitting here with $300,000 worth of jewelry on and he not have an attorney?" He had a public defender.
That detail about Vonnie's father spilling why Durk allegedly wanted King Von handled sent the internet into a frenzy. One post that spread everywhere pointed out something that had been sitting under the radar. That Durk has a pattern of being live on Instagram right around the time people connected to him end up dead. Von, Lil Pab, and FBG Duck were all specifically called out, with people noting that Durk just happened to be broadcasting during each of those situations. The more people looked at it, the harder it was to brush off as coincidence. And a growing number started piecing together the idea that those live sessions weren't random at all. That Durk was deliberately putting himself on camera as a way of building a real-time alibi while things were being handled elsewhere. With Vonnie's father already having exposed his own son, it didn't take long before another cooperating witness surfaced from within OTF. It came out during the court proceedings that DD's younger brother Ted had also turned on the group. The evidence capturing him cooperating ended up getting released publicly after the hearing wrapped up, and it hit the news hard. Reports highlighted newly surfaced body camera footage of Ted actively asking law enforcement to let him work against Durk and other OTF members, and the impact of that footage shifted the entire trajectory of the case. Durk's legal team responded by filing for more time on a new bond proposal, which immediately got people asking what exactly Ted told the feds that rattled them enough to need more time to regroup. Right there, before they even made it through the station doors, Ted broke down completely, sitting in that police car with tears already streaming down his face. He told the officers on the spot that he would give them everything they needed to know about the murders. When the court paperwork first surfaced showing someone cooperating, the streets immediately assumed it was DD himself. Because the documents only list the last name, people ran with it. But once everything became clearer, it turned out to be his younger brother Ted, who had flipped, not DD directly. Still, even with all of this stacking up against him, there are reportedly 2 paths that could potentially lead to Lil Durk walking free.
The matter is, his trial team has won a number of points in this case. Some of the evidence that they wanted to use has actually been withdrawn so that the judge didn't have to exclude it. When they bought this case, they said the conspiracy started in August 2022. That's when Durk arranged to get these rentals, these flights. That's when he made arrangements for the bounty. Then they switched that and they said, actually, the conspiracy started back when November 2020. And here's the big one. When they charged Durk, they said in the indictment about the bounty that at the direction of defendant Durk Banks, defendant Wilson, that's OTF Didi, would pay the bounty or monetary reward to the
Normally, when someone picks up more charges on top of what they were already facing, that's a sign things are getting worse. But in this particular situation, the nature of these new charges actually tells a different story. They're what the legal world refers to as a fallback charge, essentially a Hail Mary move. It's a strategy prosecutors lean on when they sense their original case isn't strong enough to guarantee a conviction at trial, so they pile on additional charges as a safety net, hoping something sticks even if the main argument falls apart.
Also added a fallback charge. So when they bought the case, the original indictment, there was no stalking charge. In the second superseding indictment against Durk, they added a stalking charge. And the stalking charge is important because it doesn't require any contract. No quid pro quo, no bounty, no payment theory. You can add that charge and simply prove that, hey, he was telling people to go do this. He didn't necessarily pay them to go do a but he was telling them to go follow that guy. He was telling them to go stalk that guy. And a jury can look at it and say, a lot like in the Diddy case, that, hey, not exactly sure here. Very, very, very suspicious individual over here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit him with the lesser charge.
The second angle that could work in Durk's favor has nothing to do with the evidence itself. It comes down to how he's being treated while locked up, and whether the court can even be considered fair when one side is being given every resource while the other is being held under conditions that borderline on punishment without process. His legal team filed for a status hearing specifically over the fact that since August 29, 2025, Durk has been sitting in a special housing unit with no due process to justify it. The conditions outlined in the filing are stark. A cell, barely big enough to fit a bed, a toilet, and a sink, with Durk confined to that space for 23 hours out of every single day. No commissary access, only 1 phone call per month, and 0 in-person visits allowed. The reason he ended up there in the first place? Getting caught with an Apple Watch, and here's where it becomes a real legal issue. His attorneys are pointing out that the alleged violation was never even reviewed by the disciplinary committee, something that by standard procedure is supposed to happen within 5 business days. That process still hasn't happened. That situation has taken a serious toll on Durk mentally. DJ Academics weighed in and made it plain. The reason the rap world has gone quiet around Durk is because of just how grim the case looks. Nobody wants to be seen standing next to someone facing this kind of heat. So one by one, people have distanced themselves and left him to deal with it alone.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of the went on tour with, did songs with, called you they brother, they twin. I wouldn't be surprised if these rappers try to f Indian up. These are down low and dirty. And I think this is what, I think Durk right now is thinking that, man, I thought I was just with a whole bunch of real. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And I feel bad for Durk. When King Slime got locked up, there was a whole parade. Free him! Free him! Free him! Oh, nah. Everybody would post details of the case. How is this humane? How could they do this? Yo, free... not Smurf. No, free Slime. Durk got locked up. They might give that half a bar. Free Smirk. And they moved him. I'll give credit. I have heard some of these guys have sent lawyers. Good for that, but Smirk is in there, man, realizing the world don't stop spinning because you locked up.
And that isolation is something that can't be understated. When you're sitting in a cell 23 hours a day, 1 phone call a month, no visits, and the people you built your entire career alongside have all gone quiet, that's a different kind of pressure than anything the streets could ever throw at you. The mental weight of that alone would break most people. and Durk is carrying all of it while simultaneously trying to fight what might be the most high-profile rap case the federal government has ever assembled. No Gunna in his corner publicly, no Young Thug who is who is dealing with his own legal situation and has enough on his plate to worry about. The King Slime Camp has its own storm to weather. The OTF members who haven't flipped are keeping their heads down, and the ones who did flip are now sitting in safe houses waiting to take the stand against him. The circle that was once one of the tightest in the industry has completely fractured, and Durk is the one left standing in the middle of the rubble trying to figure out how to survive it. What makes this case particularly brutal from a legal standpoint is that the government didn't just come with half a case, they stacked it. They came with lyrics, they came with interviews, they came with a photo of $1 million in cash, they came with cooperating witnesses from inside his own camp. They came with body cam footage of someone begging to snitch before they even walked into a police station. They came with the victim's own footage to establish motive. Prosecutors built this thing layer by layer, and every time the defense finds a crack to squeeze through, another piece of evidence comes out that patches it back up. The Hail Mary charge situation gives a little bit of hope, and the cruel and unusual treatment argument inside the SHU is a legitimate constitutional angle. But hope and legitimate angles don't always translate into courtroom victories, especially when the federal government decides they want someone bad enough to throw everything at them. The treatment situation behind bars is worth dwelling on a little longer because it actually matters more than people are giving it credit for. The argument Durk's team is making isn't just a sympathy play, it's a real constitutional claim. If a defendant can demonstrate that they are being held in conditions that prevent them from adequately participating in their own defense, that becomes a due process issue. One phone call a month means Durk can barely communicate with his attorneys. No visits means no face-to-face strategy sessions. Being buried in a special housing unit since August of 2025 without the disciplinary committee even reviewing the alleged infraction that put him there means he's essentially been punished without any official finding of guilt on even a minor internal prison rule. And all of this is happening while the prosecution gets to freely build their case on the outside with full access to every resource available to them. His legal team framing this as a fairness issue is smart, because if a judge agrees that the playing field is so uneven that Durk couldn't properly prepare, it opens the door to remedies that could range from better conditions all the way to arguments about the integrity of the entire proceeding. It's a long shot to unravel the case on those grounds alone, but it's a real card to play, and right now Durk needs every card he can get his hands on. The fallback charge angle is the other rope he's holding on to. When the government files additional charges that carry lighter weight than the original this deep into a case, experienced defense attorneys will tell you that's not confidence, that's damage control. Prosecutors who genuinely believe they have an airtight case don't typically need to add Hail Mary charges before trial. They go in with what they have and let the evidence do the work. The fact that they felt the need to layer on those additional charges suggests that somewhere in that evidence file there are gaps. Maybe the $1 million photo isn't as cleanly tied to the hit as they're presenting it. Maybe one of the cooperating witnesses has credibility issues that the defense can exploit on cross-examination. Maybe the lyrics argument, as damaging as it looks on paper, isn't as bulletproof as it seems when a skilled attorney starts picking apart the context in front of a jury. None of this means Durk is walking out of that courtroom free, but it does mean the case isn't as sealed as the headlines make it look. There is still a fight to be had, and Durk's legal team clearly believes that, or they wouldn't be filing motions and pushing for more time. Now here's the part that almost nobody is talking about, and it might be the most important part of this entire situation, depending on how things shake out. If Lil Durk beats this case, and that is still a genuine possibility no matter how stacked the odds look right now, what happens to his career on the other side of it is something that could redefine his entire legacy. Think about what he would be walking out of: a federal murder for hire case, years in pretrial detention under harsh conditions, cooperating witnesses, lyrics used against him in court, his entire inner circle imploding around him. If Durk survives all of that and steps back into the light, he wouldn't just be a rapper releasing music, he would be a story. One of the most compelling real-life survival stories the culture has ever produced, and the culture responds to that in a massive way every single time it happens. Look at the precedents. Every time an artist goes through a major legal battle and comes out the other side, there is an almost automatic resurgence in their relevance. People who weren't even fans start paying attention out of sheer curiosity. Streaming numbers jump. The narrative writes itself, but Durk's situation is different. from most of those because of the scale. This isn't a drug charge or a weapons case. This is a federal murder for hire conspiracy with cooperating witnesses and millions of dollars in alleged bounty money. If he beats that, the story becomes almost mythological. The album he releases after walking out of that courthouse would be one of the most anticipated projects in modern rap history without him even having to promote it. The interviews alone would break the internet. The Charlemagne That God Sit Down, the Adam 22 podcast, every platform would be lining up to get that first conversation. And whatever he says in those rooms would go viral instantly because everyone would want to hear directly from him about what those years were actually like. The isolation, the betrayals, watching his people flip, sitting in that tiny cell for 23 hours a day knowing that everything was on the line. Beyond the interviews and the initial wave of attention, a not guilty verdict would completely reframe how people hear his music. Songs that already exist would take on an entirely different meaning. The aggression, the grief, the references to loyalty and betrayal, listeners would go back through the catalog and hear all of it differently now that they know the full story of what was happening behind the scenes while those songs were being made. That kind of retrospective re-listening is what turns good artists into iconic ones. It's what cements legacies. Durk was already one of the most influential voices in drill and Chicago rap, the artist who helped build the emotional depth that the genre became known for, the one who put melody into the streets in a way that hadn't really been done before. Coming back from this would add a dimension to his story that no marketing campaign could ever manufacture. Financially, a comeback of that magnitude would also restore and likely multiply what he's built. The OTF brand, the Alamo Records relationship, the touring revenue, the features, the production credits, all of it would come roaring back. Artists would be lining up to get on his records because having Durk on a song after everything he went through would carry a weight and a credibility that money genuinely cannot buy. And every brand deal, every collaboration, every streaming milestone would happen against the backdrop of knowing that this man went through federal court, watched his inner circle crumble, sat in solitary essentially, and still came out the other side standing. That is a commercial story as much as it is a personal one, and the entertainment industry absolutely eats that up. But the flip side of this has to be addressed honestly, because the situation as it currently stands does not favor a clean victory. The evidence is deep, the witnesses are numerous, the paper trail is documented, and the federal government's conviction rate in cases they actually take to trial hovers somewhere around 90%. Those aren't odds that inspire confidence regardless of how good your legal team is or how clean some of the constitutional arguments look. The government chose this case carefully. They watched, they built, they waited, and then they moved. That's not the behavior of a prosecution that thinks they might lose. So if the verdict goes the other way, I mean the honest answer is that it very well might, what does that reality actually look like for Durk? Because this is where people get it wrong when they talk about artists going to prison like it's the end of everything. For most people, a life sentence is a complete financial and personal devastation, but Lil Durk is not most people. He is a multimillionaire with an established estate, a catalog that generates continuous revenue with or without his physical presence, a label infrastructure, and a legacy that is already cemented in the culture. Life in prison for Lil Durk looks nothing like life in prison for the average person, and that reality is uncomfortable but true. His music continues to earn every stream, every sync license, every time one of his songs gets placed in a film, a television show, a commercial, or goes viral on social media. That generates royalty income. His publishing rights, if structured properly, represent generational wealth that can support his family for decades. The people around him who manage the business side of things don't stop working just because he's incarcerated. Artists have managed and even grown their estates from inside prison before, and in the streaming era where access to music is instant and permanent, the financial runway for an established artist's catalog is longer than it's ever been in the history of the industry. There is also something that happens culturally when a major artist receives a life sentence. The martyrdom narrative kicks in almost immediately, and as unfortunate as that is from a human standpoint, from a legacy standpoint, it has a real and documented effect on how the public engages with that person's body of work. The music gets revisited, the deep cuts get discovered by new audiences, the emotional content hits differently when listeners know the story ended in a cell. It doesn't make the outcome any less tragic, but it does mean that the art lives on with a renewed urgency that most artists never achieve, even with full freedom and a fully functioning career. Some of the most streamed records in the world belong to artists who are no longer here or no longer free, and that isn't a coincidence. It's the culture's way of preserving and honoring the story even when the story itself is a painful one. What it really comes down to is this: Lil Durk sits at one of the most definitive crossroads any artist has ever faced in the history of this genre. Every decision made in that courtroom over the coming months will determine which version of this story gets written, and no matter which direction it breaks, the one thing that can't be taken from him is everything that already exists: the records, the influence, the emotional honesty he brought to a sound that didn't traditionally make room for that kind of vulnerability that's already out there and already permanent. Courts can take your freedom. They cannot take what you've already given the world. But make no mistake, the case is not looking good. It hasn't looked good for a while now, and every new development that surfaces seems to push the needle further in the wrong direction. The lyrics are in, the photo is in, the witnesses are ready, and the man who was supposed to be sitting in that safe house quietly waiting found a phone and burned himself, which means even the people the government is relying on are creating chaos that no one fully controls. When a case gets this messy, this layered, and this personal, when fathers are testifying against sons and former brothers are breaking down in parking lots before they even make it to the station door, the outcome stops feeling like a legal question and starts feeling like something much bigger and much heavier than any courtroom was designed to hold. Whatever happens next, this whole situation is far from over, and the next time something drops in that courtroom, it's going to send shockwaves through the entire industry all over again.